In 2024, what is the one thing that you've seen moving the needle or in the biggest, most impactful way for your clients and or people who are in your program?
One of the things that I specialize in is helping people adapt their marketing. And I feel like 2024 has been a really big year of being open to adapting how you're used to showing up, especially when it comes to content.
Launching this year has been different than the last 3 years. Show up rates are definitely lower. The consumption of content is lower. There has been a change where the way that people consume content or the way that they make buying decisions is not the same as it used to be.
Buying decision, the criteria that they're using to decide what kind of vehicle I invest in and what result am I looking for. All of those things, it's elevated to an extreme degree this year, especially when you compare 2020, 2021 to 2022, 2023, 2024. It's like,
If you have an upcoming launch or you've recently launched and you know that things need to be tweaked so your revenue can increase for your launch, you're going to love this episode where I have 3 guests who are sharing launch strategies that are working for their clients. One guest name is Chelsea. She's a launch strategist and copywriter. Another guest, her name is Latesha. She's an adaptable marketing and content strategist. And last but not least is Ashley, who is a marketing and a launch strategist. And those 3, plus me as a meta ad specialist, Instagram ad specialist, are going to share what we are seeing that's working in clients' launches this year, 2024. And these strategies, if you're listening in the future, 2025, 2026, and beyond, are still going to apply because we talk high level and then we get down to the nitty gritty, practical, tactical strategies toward the end of the episode. If you want to figure out how to get in touch with either of those ladies or me, their links and my links are also in the descriptions below. Without further ado, let's get to the episode.
Hi, I'm Latesha. I'm an 18-year marketing veteran who specializes in content strategy for service providers and coaches in online spaces.
hey everyone, I am Chelsea, known as the launch copy coach around these internet streets. And I am really supporting coaches and course creators in launching their programs with complete done-for-you support so that the only thing on their launch to-do list is taking care of themselves and their community.
Amazing. Hello, my name is Ashley Brousseau. I am a launch strategist as well, and I work with coaches and creators, helping them to create live launches that convert and are able to bring in those extra revenue dollars. So I'm so excited to be chatting with these ladies to talk all about launching. It's going to be great.
Ladies and one guy, my name's QUÄY.jo. I'm a Facebook and Instagram ad manager, and I basically help you get the best leads possible at the lowest lead cost possible so that you can have a successful launch or just a successful business fueled by a bunch of qualified leads. And so I'll lead us off with the first question that I would love for everybody to answer regarding launches, which is, in 2024, this year, what is the one thing that you've seen moving the needle or the most needles or the needle in the biggest, most impactful way for your clients and or people who are in your programs?
I'm happy to start. From a content perspective, one of the things that I specialize in is helping people adapt their marketing. And I feel like 2024 has been a really big year of being open to adapting how you're used to showing up, especially when it comes to content. I think people have gotten really stuck in the old ways of showing up, the old algorithms, the old way that things used to work. And when they don't work anymore, sometimes they get almost paralyzed from taking action or moving forward. And I'm trying to get people to see that a really big shift has been you have to be able to adjust and be open to different platforms maybe this year, or a different way of showing up, different way of being and putting yourself out there in your content.
What do you mean adjust? Because I heard different platforms and I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So I found that a lot of people, when I came from like the pandemic startup with businesses, right? And at that time, I feel like we were all very much clinging to a specific platform or whatever our coach taught us to do. And I think a lot of people have fallen into a bucket of whatever my coach taught me, that's what it is. And that's the strategy. And if it worked, then that's what they kept doing. But when it stopped working, I feel like people almost didn't know what to do. So when I say adjust and adapt, it could be just, you know what? I don't think video was ever your thing. You probably should have been a writer, and you probably should have leaned more toward threads or blogging or something like that. Or maybe you should stick to Pinterest and, be behind the scenes. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying, is that I noticed that people either got stuck doing something that someone else taught them to do and they felt like there was no other way and they were too afraid or didn't have the access to learn a different way, or they really were never in an area that actually worked best for them or was their best communication style. They just did it because that's what everyone else was doing.
Latesha, I'd love to just add, I love that you're calling the elephant out in the room. Initially, what you're saying is the things that used to work in 2020 are no longer working. Can we just all acknowledge that launching this year has been different than the last 3 years, right? Show up rates are definitely lower. The consumption of content is lower. There has been a change where the way that people consume content or the way that they make buying decisions is not the same as it used to be. So when we continue to show up the way we've always done, and suddenly we're confused, well, this is no longer working. People are well, let's just do more of the same thing because that's all they've ever done. That's all they know how to do. There's people standing around being wait, what used to work isn't working anymore. So how do is launching dead? Is it still a thing? And so I think a lot of clients and online marketers are looking for the leaders, who is still making it work and what are they doing that's different than what I'm doing? And to your point, I think the first step is being open-minded to the pivot. Hey, you've been in business for 10 years or 5 years, however, and you always did it this way. If you're not willing to adjust, you're going to be left behind, right? So it's staying open-minded to what are the shifts then? What do we need to do differently this year?
Yeah, I think that buying decision, the way that people are making decisions right now, the criteria that they're using to decide who I invest in, what kind of vehicle I invest in, and what result am I looking for, the ROI, all of those things, it's elevated to an extreme degree this year, especially when you compare 2020, 2021 to 2022, 2023, 2024, it's vastly different. And I've definitely been seeing the same thing, particularly when it comes to messaging. People have been saying the same thing in different ways, slightly different ways over the past several years, but you've got to find a new way to say what you can say, because what people are looking for now is not what they were looking for last year. And so that's the biggest sticking point for me and my clients on our end is how do we say what we need to say to help people make the best decision for them? Even if that decision is a no, even if it's not a right fit, how do we say what we need to say to help them make that decision? And that's been, and I don't know about you ladies and QUÄY.jo, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, but on our end, a lot of that has been around reconnection with the audience. That's something that we're noticing that we really have to pay attention to this year. Is tapping into the audience, connecting with them, hearing their feedback, their thoughts. Those surveys that are hiding in your Google Drive that you have not touched.
Yes.
Those things. That's what I'm finding on my end, but I'd love to hear what you all are seeing too.
I'll share one really tactical thing that, Chelsea, what you said about those surveys in Google Drives. This was something that really worked for me when I was generating not launch content, but podcast content, which easily could be interpreted for launch content, right? What I did was I took and it's not my own idea, I brought it from somebody else, but I took transcripts from my coaching calls, because I do one-on-one coaching throughout the month for people who want help and eyeballs on their Facebook ads to run ads like I do, right? And so I took all those transcripts. I use Fathom for my note taker. What do you ladies use?
Yeah, Fathom's great.
Yeah, Zoom actually has an AI now, so I just use that. It's wonderful.
Ooh, I did not know that. Okay, so what I did was I took the transcript. Loom has an AI. All right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So much is changing in the AI space so quickly. I went into Fathom for each of the calls, and I started making a knowledge base in Google Docs, which just means I would get the call transcript, not the call summary, but all the words from the transcript, and paste that into a Google Doc. And then I just downloaded that entire Google document. They do have a limit, by the way. So like now I have 2, and I uploaded it to ChatGPT, and then I asked ChatGPT to pull all the questions from it. But then I gave it an extra layer to the direction, which was like I told it to coach me on like the best kind of topics that people really need right now, help with right now, to get the questions out of there. But then I also told it the purpose of my podcast would be to give good value that results in the listener booking a discovery call with me. So I gave it a little like more context, and it did a great job of just sifting through all of the transcripts from my coaching calls and giving me good topics that aligned with all the kind of questions I was answering. So there's something really tactical. Back to our main content, but that can be used for launch messaging, right?
There was something that Chelsea mentioned I'd love for her to dive in more, or like get Latesha's perspective on, was you're saying that people aren't looking for the same thing as before. And so I want to know then, like, what is it what are they looking for now that they weren't looking for before? I would love to hear what you guys feel on that.
I actually have just a funny comment that I want to make. I feel like from like 2020 to like early 2022, because we were bored, we had a lot of disposable income. We were all starting businesses and doing random things or expanding or having to shift businesses because maybe they had in-person businesses. We would have literally bought air because we had the money to buy air. Even though we know air is free for everyone, we would have purchased it. And I feel like that did not force a lot of people to think about their messaging, to think about what they needed to say or what people needed to hear. No one was really learning true sales strategies, true marketing strategies. They were really just popping up, talking about whatever, showing a few screenshots, and people were like, I'll buy it. 20K, sure, pay it in full. And I think what we now are seeing is a skill set deficit where people are lacking the marketing and sales skill sets to really grow and expand businesses through launching because they were not actually truly taught how to do so. That's just a funny thing. I was like, people would have bought air for years and didn't care how much it cost. And now it's like, oh, you need substance. You need to actually know your people. Some of those people are feeling very different about business and life and whatever's going on. And you have to talk to them on a very different emotional level. And that those emotions are not what they were feeling back then. It's just very, very different.
So
That's
true.
a skill set deficit on the marketer side, right? A lot of marketers didn't learn the skills to sell. I'd love to know, Chelsea, what do you think the buyer is looking for? We all know messaging has to change, but what is it about messaging now that we have to talk to that we didn't used to have to talk to?
Yeah, I think that there is a level of jargonness that we can get into to kind of put on the sort of illusion of I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm saying, I'm the expert, that I think a lot of people are now seeing as BS. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not, like, what's the like, we're not here for your Stripe screenshots, we're not here for your PayPal screenshots, we're here for the real deal. Like, you look at my business and you tell me, is this going to work for me, yes or no? And if it's not, recommend something else. I think people are looking for a realness that has been lacking up until this point. Like, up until this point, we've gotten away with selling or thing instead of being human and being like, yeah, no, this isn't going to work for you. Prime example, often on like sales pages and webinars, etc., you see the section on this is going to work for you if, or this is for you if, and they'll have like low-key ridiculous bullet points like, you're an action taker and you're willing to, like, you're you know, what is it, like, you're not into get rich quick schemes. Like, come on, people. If I'm looking for a solution, I'm like, trust me as a consumer to know if I'll take action on it or not, right? Like, that's not a criteria. That's not a buying criteria. So people are looking for specific reasons why this is going to work for them or not. They're looking for real guidance, somebody who's going to actually ask them questions before they pitch the thing. You know, like, let's hear where you're at before I tell you if this thing will work for you or not. There's just a humanness that I think people are looking for, in addition to the real, like, ROI from something that we would get away with it before because we would buy anything. Like, marketers would get away with talking all kinds of craziness and making all kinds of crazy promises. But we can't get away with that anymore. We really have to know, like Latesha was saying, who a person is and where they're at in order to make a recommendation that actually is real for them, because that's honestly what they're looking for. I don't know what have you been seeing?
I actually have a question for you, 'cause I don't want you to forget. When you say, so that section, let's take that section for instance.
Yes.
What do you propose people, like, can you give a few examples of what would actually be real criteria? Because I'm like, you need to actually do this work. I shouldn't say that. Like, I shouldn't say you need to be the kind of person. Then please tell me what I should say, because that's on my page right now. And I do messaging. I'm ashamed.
Me low key calling you out, Fred. I'm sorry.
Exposed. No shame here. Just exposed.
Exposed.
No, so one of the ways that I like to think about this is that if you think back to the people who got the best results from your program, and you think at what stage in life were they in, what stage of business were they in, what resources and support did they have that enabled them to get those best results, those are the people you're calling out in that characteristic section. Like, so yes, they were action takers, but what enabled them to be an action taker, right? What was their time capacity like in their business that meant they had time or energy or support in order to do your program? So I might say something along the lines of, you have one VA for my offer. You have at least one VA. You have an evergreen funnel. You have a podcast. You're running Facebook ads. Like, this is the track record I have of helping these kinds of people. So I know when I tell you, you're going to get the best results from my offer if you have these 4 things. This is my track record. So it really is about track record more than it is around characteristics. Because I think what people want to see when they're looking for, will this work for me, is what kinds of people does she have in her program? Like, is it moms? Is it moms with toddlers or moms with grown kids? Like, am I actually going to get the best result if I come in here? And that is up to us to look at our trend line and see, okay, these are the people in my program. These are the resources they have. This is the stage of life they're in. This is why they will get the best results. And so I will call them out. And everybody else who's the opposite of that, it's not like I'm just telling you what I've gotten. So I'm telling you my track record of results. This is who I know will get the best results. So if this is you, come on in.
I think there's 2 things to extract from there, Chelsea, where first of all, I think people are looking for the tangible now. It's like not enough to be like, want to live your dream life and make millions and have all this financial freedom and okay, let's bring it down a little bit, because yes, there needs to be a bit of aspiration, but also you can't sell just the fluff. Like, there has to be something tangible. To your point, are you an action taker? Well, everyone thinks that they're an action taker. And maybe, right? I also think there's a little bit of lack of trust and this leads to my second point, where people are more intelligent buyers than before. So part of the reason I think the messaging has to change, because back in 2020 is still kind of the wild, wild west. To your point, Latesha, everyone has disposable income. Let's just try this out and buy it. And they're not asking very many questions because they're new. They're green. They've never done this before. They don't know what they don't know. But by now, they bought the courses, they've hired the coaches, and guess what? They still don't have the results they were promised. And so they've been burned. And so now they're looking for something specific. I want one-on-one. I want accountability. I want implementation, things that are done for me, right? And so they are looking, that's a harder sell because they're a more intelligent buyer. They're not like the green newbie, right? And the lack of trust they have a lot facilitated by us as marketers, right? We're selling the dream, but how many people are not fulfilling on that promise, right? Not everybody in the space has a high level of integrity or a high level of care for their clients, right? They actually care, they get results. And so I think part of that means that buyers take longer to make buying decisions because there's a lack of trust. Okay, well, I've invested in a program like this before, so why is this going to be different? We have to be able to blatantly say why this is different and know what they have tried before in the past in order to explain how this is going to be different, right? And part of that is the buyers have a lack of trust in the experts, right? Because they've worked with experts before and it didn't work for them. But they also have a lack of trust in themselves, because how many of you have clients, or how many of you resonate with the fact that you're a course junkie and you buy this thing and it sits like in digital on the digital shelf and collects dust, and you're like, oh yeah, I bought that thing. I never took action on it. So if I spend $2,000 more on a program, am I actually going to do the thing, right? There's a lack of trust for them on the marketing side, but also personally, like, well, I bought this before and I didn't use it and I should have, but I didn't. So there's like, I think a little guilt there too of like, am I actually going to take action? They lack trust in themselves. I think part of that is like the information overload. Like everybody has a program, everybody has a course. There's a dopamine hit as soon as you hit the buy button. You're like, yes, I finally have it's like solved. And then the dopamine, you don't do the work and you already got the dopamine hit. So it's like, oh, okay, like on to the next, to feel good, you buy the next thing. You don't do the work, right? So I think it's like, how do we as marketers get more clear, get more honest, get more transparent about the work actually required? So we're enrolling the right people that are actually going to do the work and get the results, right? Which benefits you when you have great, amazing testimonials from people that are actually getting results. And filtering through like, hey, if you have tried this before, this is where my program might be different. Or, hey, here's who this program is not for. You're brand new, you do not have a VA, you have no support, like you are not ready. And not being afraid to push people out the door that are not ready for your program, right?
If you're currently running meta ads and you want me to look at your ads and make them work better, and then also coach you step by step, i.e., you have questions about what to do in this case or what to do in that case. Am I setting up the ad campaign right? When should I scale? How much do I scale by? How do I dissect this ad situation and make it and know what to do, what metrics to look at to make the whole thing work better? If you want that kind of help from me, one-on-one style for a month, there is a link in the descriptions below, and I can help you in exactly that way. I'll add a client example for the listener who's like, what would that look like? Making the messaging a bit more relevant and being really specific. I'll lead with a quote. It's by Thomas Jefferson, probably not a new quote to everyone, but we often miss opportunities because it's dressed in overalls and it looks like work. And I said that during a call I was doing earlier today, because as we were talking about ad testing, one person's like, this seems like a lot of work. And to the listener right now in 2024, I guess the bottom half of 2024, oh my gosh, Christmas is coming. It does seem like it's more work to differentiate ourselves. And yes, we're going through a market that's more sophisticated now. Like, I'm not the only Facebook ad manager. Somebody who might need ads help has already heard all the promises of Facebook ads glory, right? And making 10x and your SLO funnel. So what makes me different from somebody else? Like, I do have to bring to the conversation, like, can I speak to what my ideal customer is going through right now and not last year? And so here's an example from a client. We were running ads to her webinar for a high ticket offer. I think, it's not super high, like $1,200. And it was working great. She's in the real estate industry. And before, this webinar was called Double Your Business in 6 months. And it was converting quite well. And we hit kind of a speed bump at the end of 2023, where it just wasn't converting as well in Evergreen. And we tried many, many things, because I'm an ads manager, I do testing, right? And then what we ended up doing was changing the messaging, because we're like, well, actually, what has changed in the market? Like, do realtors even feel like they could double their business in 6 months? And it was like, oh, this messaging was back from when interest rates were really low and people were just buying up houses. And it was kind of like the heyday. There's always heydays, right? But the most recent one, before interest rates started going up like super high. And then, this messaging was from back before there was this random thing called, it's a big deal to real estate agents, but something where like the buyer was able to buy, what was it? The buyers had to pay their own fees. Something changed in the fee structure for hiring a realtor, which put a lot more power in the hands of the buyer, or made the buyers a lot more selective. And so what we did was we changed, and it wasn't just me, it was a conversation that me and my client had. And then she also continued on the conversation with her business coach, but she ended up changing it from double your income in like 6 months to like the realtor roadmap. I'm looking at her page right now. Turn even the toughest market into your best sales year ever. And then the subheadline was, "This strategy works even post an AR settlement." And that's like special speak to realtors, but that settlement really changed the game and made it a lot more difficult for realtors to do their thing. And so having that there let like a potential customer know that, okay, she knows her stuff, but she's speaking to the problems that I'm going through right now. And then what was a very realistic claim with screenshots and everything to back it up was brought down to what would be a realistic claim in this current market, not from before. And so that's a concrete example. In addition to, we had to have change up her ads. And so instead of speaking to the situation that was happening before, now like we ended up testing a bunch of different ads where she would take topics that were going, let's say, that got a lot more views right now, topics that were having to do with, whatever law or bill that a president passed that changed like the game for real estate agents currently. Like she would talk about those topics in different ways. We still had similar ad copy, but just like the hook was different to make sure that it was more relevant to the current situations going on. So that's a clear example from the ads perspective of how you just have to change your messaging for your launches or your evergreen webinar or your evergreen products in this case, to make sure that they speak to the relevant current situation.
I think that's the key that you're talking about, QUÄY.jo. It's like you have to speak to the pain point and you have to be specific. To say double your business in 6 months, first of all, that's not a pain point, and it's a very vague promise. Double your business, what does that mean? Like double my clients, double my revenue, double my team, like, and it's not specific in terms of, well, are you talking to realtors or are you talking to course creators? Or there's no identity piece in that either, right? And so to then say, hey, how to do, like the example I gave was like beautiful because it spoke specifically to the market as it is. We're in a constricting economy right now. Like inflation is up, interest is up, everything is up. And so to just say, hey, let me help you double your business, people, it's not believable unless you're able to pinpoint on those exact things. Like how to double your launch rates, or even better, how to make $10,000 in your next launch on a low ticket offer, even in a constricting market, right? That would be more of a title that it's like, okay, if someone's struggling with their low ticket offer and they can't even make $10,000, right? To your point, you're like double your revenue wasn't even believable. It's like, how do we bring it down to them? What are people really looking for? They're just looking for their next client, right? They just like, how do I get my next sale? If that's it, then we want to bring in those, like, what are their top 5 pain points? And what are their actual top 5 desires? Because right now their desire isn't like, I'm going to double my business. It's like, can I just get like my next client in the door so that I make sure that my business is still in business next month? But kind of a thing, like where are the clients sitting on like the timeline of like, what's the most pressing issue? And I love that you just like illustrated that so beautifully, because that I'm like, yes, that makes perfect sense why that pivot works.
I want to piggyback on what you just said, Ashley, because I think the power there is the most pressing issue, like the most urgent priority pain point. I think that a lot of the time we can end up in situations where we speak to generalized pains and overview ideas that we know, like to Latesha's point earlier, we know those people used to respond to those things, but what's urgent today? Like another way to think about this is the trigger moment that is causing your client to go look for help on Instagram or go Google something. Like what happened last night? What happened last week? What happened earlier this year? Like what changed? In the example that QUÄY.jo so beautifully gave, like the government would sign a new bill into effect and that changed the game, or the like rates that people now were hiring realtors at, they got some money back in their pocket, so they got some power back. Like that changed the game. There are trigger moments in your customer's journey of life that are causing them to now look at and decipher, okay, where can I get help? What do I need to do now? Those moments are the moments that you call out, because then they recognize, oh, they're talking to me. And now I have an opportunity to respond. And I don't know, Latesha, if you're seeing this in like social copy too and content and like either long form, short form. I'd love to hear what you're seeing as well around that stuff.
I've literally had to have people who have been so certain of target audience and all these things. I'm like, ooh, first of all, we need to go back. It's beyond just a target audience now, which is a generalization of a group of people. You need to be very specific. This is now giving buyer persona, like specific qualities of people and personas and profiles of people that you've actually successfully worked with in the most recent past, and tell me everything about this person. I literally have them going through setting up this buyer persona and then mapping out something that I call a client awareness map, where you detail the struggles, the beliefs, all of the things that they've tried, like the top 5 things that they tried, the top 5 beliefs that they have about their problem, the solution that you're offering you specifically in your program, your service, your course. And you need to be able to tell me those 5 things. If you can't give me top 5 things, and you don't know your people well enough, and we need to go back to those intake forms. We need to go back to those client results and go back through our program calls and start to document these things. We really need to more deeply understand people, because that's what improves content. And I feel like people are jumping to make a specific format of content. I should do a reel. I need to do YouTube now. I need to do this. That format of content isn't going to help you. The context of that content isn't relating to the buyers that you need to be attracting right now, who are actually going to do well. People who did well in my coaching programs back in 2020 would not be doing well right now with how I need them to perform. I could never work with those people. And I think a lot of people need to go and reevaluate who they're targeting and stop looking at these generalizations. Those just women entrepreneurs. You know how many men, I want to work with men who have a startup. What man? Please tell me more about this man or this woman entrepreneur, because that is not cutting it these days.
But Letitia, if I get too specific about the person who I want to work with, what about all those other people who are kind of a good fit for me?
The way we get this question as marketing people, like, I don't want to, exclude people. This is not an access issue. This is not one of those issues where you're excluding people in a negative way. This is you avoiding tricking more people into buying the wrong thing that's not for them. It's you getting yet another client who isn't performing the way that you thought the last 5 people performed, because you were just so excited to get that client. We need to be more exclusive with who we're trying to attract if we want to get those results and to be proud of what we're doing with our clients. So I feel like instead of looking at it as excluding or leaving people out, we're looking at it as, I am looking for people who actually kind of are very similar to people that I know will do well, so that they will also or be more likely to do well. I think it was very up in the air because, again, a lot of things lined up for a lot of people over the last few years leading up to, 2022-ish. And with all of those things now gone, when it's very, I would say, challenging, in the most challenging of years, you have to be more strategic about what you're doing. So if we take it back to QUÄY.jo's example, right, of real estate, maybe I am going to still get in that good school district. However, it needs to be a fixer upper. Maybe I don't get the 4th bedroom. Maybe if it has a little loft or a little extra space, that can be the office. Like, we have to get creative and more strategic about how we're approaching the search. And if we can do that same thing with our target and the clients and the profiles, I think people would do much better. And then I can talk about content all day.
Agreed. I got a technical question. We've talked about messaging and being more relevant and including things that we can do to increase trust and also speak to somebody who is dealing with problems that we may not have addressed in a certain way in the past, right? But what I really want to know, what's something practical that you've done with your clients or that you've seen your students do that has gotten better launch results right now in 2024? And before that, can each of you share best way for somebody to get to know more about you? Maybe you have something in the form of a lead magnet that they could download. Can you share about that?
If you all are looking to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at the Launch Copy Coach, and it'll be linked in the show notes, I'm sure. And if you want to learn more about my clients, see what their launch funnels look like, see what their evergreen funnels look like, see what numbers they're pulling in, get inspired for your own launches, you can go ahead and download my case studies as well.
If you want to be friends, we can connect and be friends before, I give you my juicy tip. But you can find me on Instagram at Ashley Brasso, ASHLEYBRASSO. And I do have a freebie. You can DM me the word plan, and I can send you my high ticket launch plan, which is a Trello board full of exactly every single task that you have to do in a timeline, including tips and videos to help you execute a high ticket launch campaign that I'm doing with my clients right now. So if you're just like overwhelmed with all the tasks, you don't know where to get started, this would be a great place to get started. And you can DM me on Instagram plan, and I will send it your way.
Very cool. Latesha.
And you can find me primarily on Instagram. I'm her marketing coach there. And you can also find me. I have a podcast called the Revolutionary CEO Podcast. And one of the resources that I like to lead people to, I have two. One is called Lead Overflow. And same thing on Instagram. If you DM me the word overflow, I'll send it to you. It'll help you to figure out your best marketing and communication style right now, and then help you to get a more diverse marketing strategy to put your content out there. But I do have something that would actually help you create that client awareness map and build out your buyer personas the right way. And if you DM me just M, like Mary, MMB, it's called the Marketing Momentum Blueprint.
If you are running your Facebook ads and you want to avoid the most common mistakes that I see in people's accounts that I coach, then I got a lead magnet. It's tutorials, no fluff. And it's called The 7 Biggest Mistakes that online course creators make that burn through their hard-earned money. That will be linked up in the description below. And it's just me with Loom recording inside of Facebook ad accounts, showing you the mistakes and how to fix those so that you can get either lower cost per lead or lower cost per sale, as in get more leads or make more sales with your Facebook ads. And my Instagram link will also be linked up down there. So I'll lead with the practical advice that I've seen that's worked better for clients. One specific thing I've seen for my clients is just testing during a launch. Come prepared. Like we've all heard, come prepared with multiple pieces of ad copy and multiple pieces of graphics, or Reels in this case. That's what's working better for my clients is Instagram Reels vertical format video. But specifically for their launches to get better results, we've had to test more. Whereas in the past, maybe 2 years ago, you could get away with just 2 different pieces of ad copy and maybe a handful of different, video or graphics. Now it's like 3 ad copy minimum with an option to come back and make different hooks or like the different top 3 lines of the best performing ad copy later on to see your lead cost for your registration for your launch come down, and then 7 to 9 different pieces of ad creative that we're just pairing with the best performing ad copy. So there's more testing involved, and that's okay. Just do the work ahead of time, and then don't be afraid to test. And it is worth it. I just want to give you encouragement, because testing sounds like work, and different ad copy variations and ad creative, images, graphics, reels sound like work, but it will get you a lower lead cost. And ultimately, because you've tested the different kind of messaging in those different formats, you'll land upon somebody who would be a better qualified lead for your launch or registrant for your launch than if you had not done the work. So that's a practical tip from what I'm seeing.
Chelsea, why don't you start? We'll go in the same order as before.
I was low-key like, I will not go first this time.
Sorry for my directions that may not have been the most clear. That's why I gave us an example now of a very practical thing that's working in a launch. Chelsea.
Oh my God. All right. Super simple. All of your ManyChat automations where you automatically register people for stuff. I love to give this tip because it's like really, you can implement it in 5 minutes. On the back end, add a question that says, hey, what's one question you wish I would answer in this upcoming masterclass or in this freebie or in this challenge, this whatever thing it is. Because trust me, the gold you will get word for word. I did this in a client's launch and I was shook at just the value that we got from that. And we even plugged in a bunch of that stuff into the webinar. And can I tell you how people responded when we said what we said based on what some other people said? We just copied the words. But it's such a powerful sneak peek into your client's like brain, the questions they're asking, the things they're frustrated about, the things they feel like they deserve that they have not yet gotten because they're trying so hard and they're trying everything and it's not working. That question brings out the gold.
Talk about like interaction. Like, I actually exist. Like, I responded to this thing which I know is automated, and then I went to the webinar and it's like, that was my question. Like, how much more likely am I to actually buy what you have to sell? Like, wow.
That's amazing. I'm going to piggyback off that because my tip, Chelsea, is very connected to that, where I would say if there was one thing you could do to increase conversions on your launches, it is to incorporate more touch points with your audience before they get to the webinar, right? Before the launch. Like the launch is one, like before the launch happens. Like once the cart is open, there's only so many levers you can pull when you're like, save the launch, right? Like it's not going as we planned. A lot of the work has to be done upfront. And I would say being able to add, people want connection, right? It's the intimacy, it's the unscalable, unsexy strategies of like personal reach outs or many chats where you're asking questions. Hey, what's one thing I could do? Having those one-on-one conversations. A specific example of this in one campaign I did with a client, we offered strategy calls before the launch, free 20-minute strategy calls, nothing for sale. Sent it to the list and said, if you're struggling with X topic related to the topic of the launch, book your free 20-minute session here with our team, and we will help strategize you, give you a game plan. From there, the objective from the call was then to invite them to the live event. Like, hey, like here's your strategies. By the way, we're hosting a whole workshop on this topic. I would love to invite you. Can I help you get signed up? And we'd sign them up on that call. And it was for free. So much, they got so much out of that the trust was there. It increases our show up rates. And in the debrief, we could connect. I think it was like 30% of our sales were connected to someone who had had one of these calls. So is it scalable? No. Is it super sexy? No. It's going to take a lot of time. Yes. But to your point, QUÄY.jo, you're like, it requires work. You got to work. I'm like, yes, it requires work. Like the market is not always this like very easy place. And we just hope that people land in our inbox, right? Sometimes you got to go out and get the client. It's called outbound marketing, right? Like it's a thing. So if there's anything that I could say as far as like, what can you do to increase your conversions? It's like, build your relationships with your community in whatever that means for you. DM voice notes, Loom videos, free strategy calls, like whatever you can do to build that trust, because that's what's lacking in the market. It is lack of trust. So you've got to go to work to create that.
I love that. And from a content strategy perspective, what I've seen work really well, especially for people who actually do the execution, so service providers and even coaches, is more transparency around what's actually happening behind the closed doors of what you're doing. So what's been really successful is I've been having my clients do a few different things. Either if you're a service provider that does something, then showing your process or walking through the thought process behind the strategy that you gave to someone and why that was something that worked for them. Hearing your thought process without you as a service provider trying to be a coach. You're not teaching them how to do or be you. You need to help them understand how you're coming up with these strategies based on people's situations. I even show like little behind the scenes or little clips from, I have a marketing membership, and in there we have something called feedback loops where I give feedback on something. I show little clips of me giving someone feedback, and I'll say, this is what the question was, this is what they wanted me to review, and here's how I did it. Little clips of that from Q&A sessions. I'll post just me responding to someone's question. Those things work so well because if you're a coach, they see your teaching style. They see that you're capable of answering different things on the spot. If you're a service provider, they know that you are fully capable of doing things. They see the execution. They see that you know how to do different situations and handle different situations. If they can see that, they will buy so much faster, because I think so much of what was shared in marketing, and you guys probably know, is like, don't give away everything, and don't tell them, don't let them in on your secret. Somebody might no, let them know who you are and what you can do, because you will be one of the few people who are transparent enough to share that, and they are going to buy from you because there's no question of whether or not they can trust you. They will immediately feel that trust.